All right, welcome everybody. We are live here. I am joined with Jen Dowda with Dowda Senior Consulting, and we're going to talk about dementia support today as our topic. And Jen, I really appreciate the time for you spending on this live stream and on this platform to share not only your expertise, but also the story behind Dowda Senior Consulting and how you help people who are kind of navigating some of these more complicated situations. So I wanted to open up with you just giving an introduction for yourself and telling us a little bit more about Dowda and how it serves the community.
Sure. Thanks so much, Jake, for having me. We're really excited about what you're doing. And we were just chatting before it really, especially in Richmond, but everywhere in the world, life is just about relationships, right? And so,
Yeah.
especially when you're facing something hard, you need people that you trust. You're facing something new, you don't know what to do, who you're going to ask, you're going to talk to the people that you trust. So really, that's the goal and the mission behind what we do. Is to build those trusted relationships, both with people in the community who are able to serve as caregivers, communities, whatever it is, professional partners, and then our clients, who are living in the community, and to be able to join them with the resources that they need. And so we're really committed to making sure that we are always completely 100% up to date on what are the best things out there, who's doing the best work, and to be able to provide that for our clients. And we are just trying to help our clients reach their goals. So people always wonder, how can our service be free? So we like to say that up front. If a client of ours moves to a community, to a senior living community, we get paid a referral fee for that move. What we do is we take the funds from those moves and put it into everything that we do. So actually the majority of our clients don't move to communities. They're living in their homes and we're supporting them doing that, but we don't have to charge for that because we get enough money. We're kind of like a self-funding nonprofit. So the funding stream is from the moves. We are in this business to do as much good as possible, not to make as much money as possible. We are only not a nonprofit because I don't want to give up control to a board because I want to run things. And so, but really we are here to do as much good as we can. So part of, and an increasingly large part of why people reach out is because they or someone they love are on the dementia journey. And so we are increasingly in spaces where we are trying to find as many great resources as we can, trying to educate as much as we can. And we do a lot of work in that space. So, and we are always happy to get out there anywhere we can, because it's a little different in that space than a lot of other diagnoses that people receive. You go in and find out you have diabetes, you have this, you have this. Okay, here's your treatment plan. You're going to meet with this physician. They're going to do this with you. Boom, boom, boom. You receive a dementia diagnosis, and often it's, here's an Alzheimer's Association pamphlet, and, maybe just best of luck to you. And so for us, that's where we really want to make sure that we can be there for folks and know they can reach out to us. And as the journey progresses and things change, that we'll be there and be able to help them however they need that help.
I'd like to start with, you're talking about the dementia journey, and I would imagine, and I personally haven't experienced this, and I'm sure that when somebody first discovers that their loved one, their parent, or whoever they're working or they're caring for has dementia, they start to see some signs. When people come to you for that support and they're kind of in that early phase, what are some of the questions that people have? And like, how do you kind of support people in that very beginning part where they just now kind of uncover this situation that they have to work through?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we actually have 3 different dementia consultants on our team that are really the experts. I kind of, we've got 19 different people on our team, and I kind of know a little bit about everything and then try to help everybody on the team. But those 3 are really the experts in this. 2 of them are trained as occupational therapists. One is trained as an end-of-life doula, but then they're all 3 trained as dementia consultants. So first thing we do is bring one of them in and introduce them into the scenario because they really are the experts.
Mhm.
And then it's really just sitting down and trying to understand the situation, the whole situation. So there's a whole thing going on. And right from the beginning, what we really try to encourage people to do is start building your team. Because what happens is, unfortunately, there, for whatever reason, still is some stigma with dementia. There's a sense of, oh gosh, we can't let anybody know that mom's having these problems. And so people kind of tend to close in. We all saw what happened during COVID. When you get closed in, it's not good. It's especially not good for
Yeah.
someone who's experiencing brain change. And it's really not good for the caregiver. So right from the get-go, we want to say, okay, who can we bring into this, right? And often, almost always, there are people out there who want to be a part of helping. They just don't know how to help, and they don't want to be pushy, and they, don't really know what to do. So let's start from the beginning and be like, okay, who's going to be a part of this team? Who's in it with us? And then also, as early as we can, sitting down with the person living with dementia and saying, what are
Mhm.
your goals? What do you want this journey to look like? Who do you want to be a part of your team? What do you want this whole thing to look like? And writing those things down and getting them to really be a part of this, because they're the main part, they're the middle of this, right? And so instead of doing things to them, we want to be guided by them.
Mhm.
And so knowing all of those things as early as possible is really key for success along the journey.
And when you say team, you're referring to like friends, family. Would there be anybody else that might kind of show up as like a critical person to that team that you're speaking
Right.
to?
Yep. Neighbors, church friends, family, extended family, just anybody. And it's amazing how sometimes people are surprised of who wants to help and also who
Yeah,
doesn't, and allowing people to choose to opt in or opt out. Because if we just assume, well, my next door neighbor, she's, so and so, she should be doing this. Like, you have to give people that choice, so that we don't build up resentments, and just so that we know this, okay, we're in.
yeah,
This is our team, and we're gonna do it. And that the person living with dementia has chosen those people to be on their team. Maybe they don't really
yeah.
like that neighbor, and that neighbor wants to come over and do something to help, but I don't really like it when she's in my house. So we need to know,
Right.
like, and if you don't like it when she's in her house, then maybe that neighbor goes grocery shopping and drops the groceries on the front door and isn't somebody coming in. Maybe it's a different friend who comes in and helps with laundry because I
Y
like it when she's in my home.
yeah.
So making sure that they're directing us as we do things.
Yeah, I love that you get the buy-in from the person that's going through the because they're the ones that they're receiving the care, and it's important that the people that they're receiving care from, there's strong alignment. Um, I want to ask a little bit more about, um, I guess just like, and I often wonder, like, people out there who might feel like that they're alone in this. And there was one message I saw on your website, like, you're not in this alone. We're here for you.
Yes.
What would you say to that person that feels like that they are, alone in this journey and are trying to maybe take that step to actually getting help? Because some people can be a little stubborn when it comes to looking for help. And I think that maybe we can speak to
Yeah.
what that transition could look like for them.
Yes. That's such a good question, because you can't do it alone, but we're Americans. We can
Right.
do it. That's what our country was built on.
Yep.
Um, and so yes, I mean, I think in some senses it's a very individual, question, but in general, um, it's part of how we developed. We have a support group for wives for women whose husbands are on the dementia journey. And that started a couple years ago from me just being with different women and thinking, "Ooh, I would love for you to meet her, because I think you all, would really hit it off." And so we started that group. Now we have two of them. There's one in Hanover and one in the West End, and meet monthly. And then we just were like, gosh, these husbands really need this too. So maybe 4 months ago, we started we call it Husbands Club. And they meet, and that has been really successful as well. I do think it's the spouses that tend to be the most hesitant to invite someone in to get help. So we really kind of hone in on them. We feel like adult children are a little bit more open to kind of bringing people in. So those who are the most likely to be like, I got this, because they're trying to protect their spouse. That's what they're doing. They love their spouse. They're protecting their dignity, all of that. So to be able to be in a space where they know that everyone's journey is different, but everyone else is on a similar journey, they're able to say things that they couldn't say in a different space. Right. So that first meeting of the wives support group, we sat down, and it was, as you can imagine, quite emotional as everybody kind of shared their story. And one of the women said, sometimes I lay there in bed and I just think, I just kind of want to put the pillow over his head and be done. Mm-hmm. And every woman at that table was like, they just shook their heads. And I feel like in any other space, that woman could have never said that, right? Yeah. People would be like, oh, that's horrible. We need to get her some help. That's terrible. She's thinking about, like, it's just the difference of sharing that in that space. So I feel like if we can that's my kind of first go-to when I see somebody who's I can do this myself, is be like, would you just give me one shot? Just come to this group and meet these people and see what, just sit in this room one time. And if you asked any of the people in that group, kind of one of the most important pieces for them of walking this journey, it will be being in that group. And there are, at this point, because the husbands group is so new, this isn't the case, but in the wives group, there are women who come to that whose husbands are no longer with us, but they're, still a part of that. And it's beautiful, kind of a redemptive process for them to be able to be a part of it and care for and support the women who are on that journey still. So that's one piece. I think sometimes, there are people where I've thought, I know you're trying to do this by yourself. Would you just have a conversation with this one person? Because I think, it's the beauty of having thousands of clients that we just know all these people, and we can think, I bet that you would listen to this person if they talked to you. And when you are able to talk to somebody who's a little further down the journey and they can tell you, I was where you are now, I wish I had done this. That feels so much more powerful than me as a random outsider who is not going through this, telling them, oh, you should do this. Right. So to have somebody who has actually walked in your shoes to tell you, man, I wish that I had done this. It's just it carries a lot more weight. So we do a lot of that as well.
And the groups you're speaking about, where can people find out about these groups?
Yes. So I'm not sure it's on our website right now. We'll try to get it up there. They could just reach out to us. Our phone number's on our website, or get on there and send us an email, and we can send them information, send an invite. We don't like to put the information out there publicly because we don't want somebody just randomly showing up, because we don't know what they would bring to that group. So we like to make sure that we know the person ahead of time. But we can tell people, when it is. We just don't kind of share all the details because we want to protect that group.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you create the space that allows people to open up and express themselves in a very sensitive situation. So you got to put those boundaries around that in order to preserve that experience that you've created. So, I want to shift into talking a little bit more about, I guess, just like the medical care that goes into this, and I'm not sure, like, the healthcare piece, like what's required for it. How do you, if you even support that part of the process, how does that look?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So thankfully, when I first started, I don't have any type of medical background, and I would meet with people and they would say, God, I met with this neurologist and he was terrible. And I'd be like, I'm so sorry. And then I would ask around, does anybody know a good neurologist? And I couldn't really get any good answers. And, it was a year before you could see a neurologist. And it was just like kind of this thing where I was like, well, that must be a space that I can't really get into, but I'll just do everything I can over here. And then over time, we started having neurologists reach out to us because our clients were telling them, oh, I'm working with Dowda or whatever. And so we started making these connections with, neurologists, different people in hospitals, doctors' practices all over the place, and realized that why people were saying that about their neurologist was they thought they would go in and the neurologist would say, okay, you have dementia. Now here's a plan for what we're going to do. And that is not the neurologist's job. It's for a diagnosis. That's not what they're there for. They're that's not their position. And so the families were very frustrated that they didn't get what they were looking for. But it wasn't that they were not a good neurologist. It was just that's not what their job is. So now that we've gotten to know a lot of the local neurology clinics, different, physicians, and we're able to partner with them, it has become such a beautiful thing because, like I said, even our dementia consultants are trained, two of them are trained occupational therapists. They don't operate as occupational therapists. They operate as consultants. So if somebody needed an OT, we're going to send them to an OT. They're not going to, that's not how they do it. So we are not medically practicing at all. But to have the partnership with the people who are doing the medical side of it is so beautiful because then they can do what they're amazing at. And then we can do what we're amazing at. And we can go and sit in somebody's house for 2 hours in a way that a neurologist cannot. They can, prescribe things and diagnose things and, do things that we can't. And all together we can be a team. And it just, I feel like once we started making those relationships with those different clinics, it just kind of took us to a different level of what we're able to do for our clients. So I'm really excited about those partnerships. And there's some wonderful physicians here in Richmond that we love partnering with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. It's definitely, I mean, kind of going back to what you said before about the relationships and the trust, you're
Yeah.
almost bringing it full circle here with the network that you've established with the neurologists and
Yeah.
occupational therapists, and you've got that professional team that's surrounding the consultants that are there to really help be the guides and support and
Yeah.
bringing in the experts where they're needed. So it's the way that I understand the system to hear that or which you've created.
Yes. Yep. That's exactly it. And we know, we just every Tuesday morning we have a staff meeting and twice a month we bring in outside speakers. So like our last Tuesday morning, we had someone from the palliative team at Bon Secours come speak. And then there's a woman who's over 5 different rehabs who works for Bon Secours to kind of help we don't end up going to rehab, going back to hospital, going to rehab, going back to the hospital. Like, how can we help with that process? So she came, so we can all kind of partner. So as she's trying to help people hospital, rehab, stay home healthy, we can be a part of that as well. So it's just, as we all can kind of join forces. And it was great. The woman who's presented about palliative care, she was trying to, it's always a little confusing, like what's palliative, what's hospice? And she said her description is that they are like Linus's blanket. And I thought that was so great. She's like, we're just a blanket. It's not with hospice. You're saying, I'm not going to do this anymore. Now I'm going to do this. It's a bigger shift. She's like, we're just the blanket, So when you're in the hospital and all these people are coming and going and all this is happening, we're the one who's kind of focusing in on you as a person. And can we bring you the warm blanket? Can we bring your husband the warm blanket because he's sitting in the chair and he's cold? What can we do? So they were able to come in, share with our entire team, ask us questions. We could explain to them what we do. We go into different, physicians' offices and do lunch and learns, bring our dementia specialists in. They do different trainings in some of these offices. We, a couple of years ago, we went in and one of our dementia consultants did a training for there were probably about 45 OR nurses that were in there. Yeah. And she showed this kind of training thing about this hand over hand, like how you can help somebody. Like if I were to help you with what you're eating and I had my fork and I kind of went like this, it feels like it's, just like coming right at your face. So it's this way where you kind of hand over hand and you put the fork here. So you're able to guide it to your mouth, but you're kind of a part of it. And it was like, I will never forget it. She was showing them how to do it. And these are, highly trained, incredible people who are, working in the OR and the ER, some of them. And she did it. And it was like this audible, just gasp. And they were like, oh, that's so great. So, I mean, even in those spaces, and they will tell, any healthcare professional will tell you the amount of dementia training that they receive in medical school is about this big. And so they're incredible medical training and they get all of this, but that is a space that is probably not as well supported as it could be. So to have these women on our team be able to come in and just provide extra support, they love that. They're always, really excited when we can come in and provide some of that support in those spaces because, you're an ER nurse and you're dealing with somebody who's come in with dementia and they're really struggling, in that room. And for you to have some tools it's just a game changer. So we love doing education as well.
So going back to like there's certain things that you can do to you have a loved one, they have dementia, and I would imagine that for somebody who's never, I'll just speak for myself, or anybody who's never had to, I guess, coordinate with a person that's dealing with that kind of situation.
Right.
Are there any tips that you have for just people, like in terms of like how they can interact with that individual and able to better, um, I guess just better support the situation, support them, and help guide them along in the most stable way possible. If
Yeah.
I'm asking this question in a way
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Just interacting well with somebody who's living with dementia.
Right. Exactly.
With that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the biggest things is to really do everything you can to enter into the reality that they're experiencing. Right. So
Hmm.
just the really like, putting yourself into someone else's shoes, but like up to the 10th degree. Right. So matching their emotion, matching
Mm.
their reality. If they're like, that lady stole my, purse, and nobody stole a purse, be like, man, she did what? Just like get in it with them instead of trying to tell them, no, 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 she didn't steal your purse, to be always pushing back and trying to take my reality and pushing it on you.
Uh,
If you're living with dementia, that is your reality, right? So it's not
mhm.
going to be helpful to me. And all it's going to do is make you feel less than and scolded and like you're wrong. And so then either you're going to just feel sad or you're going to fight me back, right? One of those two things, and neither of those are good. So what can
Yeah.
we do to make you feel supported and dignified? And so what, there's something in, if you say something that's completely not true, there's something in there that I can agree with, right? There's something that I can go along with, something I can start talking about, so let's find something where instead of um, disagreeing with you, pushing back, Mom, dad died 10 years ago. Why do you keep saying that? Oh, I love it when dad did, this and this. Do you remember that? It was so fun. We used to go on those trips, things like that. Don't ask
Mm.
them to remember, don't walk in the room and say, remember me? Don't push them to try to remember things. Go in and be like, hey, it's Jen. I'm your neighbor. I'm so happy to see you. Just try to make them feel happy, make sure that your facial expression is really as positive as possible. Um,
Mhm.
speak slowly. You don't have to be ridiculous about it, but give them, kind of their brain chance to process. You don't have to speak loudly necessarily, but kind of slow down. Yeah, don't ask them, questions that are, so what'd you do this morning? Like that might be hard to remember, but just, isn't it a gorgeous day? Do you, what do you love flowers? Aren't they great? Just kind of generic, lovely things that can have really open-ended answers. So really
Mhm.
just, trying not to put somebody on the spot, and just make them feel good. Not, you just told me that story. If they've told you the story 3 times, and maybe kind of try to take it a different direction. And yeah, so just in general, kind of getting in, trying to jump into where they are in that moment as much as you can. And it can be,
Yeah.
and then if that's why it's important to have the team, because if you're like, whoa, this is the 20th time and I don't think I can do this again, tag out, right? Go out, be like, get your wife, be like, can you go in there for a few minutes? Or,
Yeah.
I'm just going to step out and go get myself some tea. I'll be right back. And another thing is if you blow it, and we all do all the time, then like take a time out, and even say that, like, I'm just gonna, take a time out for a second and sit here. Just, I'm gonna
Mhm.
step. I'm gonna need to use the restroom. I'll be right back. Just kind of take 10 deep breaths, get yourself together, and step back in. But as much as you can stay positive and kind of monitor yourself, you're not going to win the argument with them. So step away
Sure.
and
Mhm.
then come back. So those
Yeah.
few
I
things.
I love that. I mean, I think I mean, especially you talk about their reality, and it's like your reality is not their reality, and you have to come to that level with them, um and especially like the team piece, right? You really speak to the importance of the team and where that can really show up as part of the support that keeps everything together. So I love all the insight that you just gave there. I think that's important to think just about even with people not living with dementia, just in general, right?
100%. So I will say this is like the most helpful thing that anybody could do right when they get in this space is one of our dementia consultants does a 5-week Zoom care partner support series. So you can be anywhere. She does them kind of at different times. She'll do one 5-week series and then, wait a week or two and start another one. It is so good. And you learn so much. And I think she only lets like 12 people be on it at a time. So it ends up being kind of a support group as well. And when she first did it, she and I are the ones that kind of started this business together. And when she first did her first one, I was like, well, I want to be on it, even though I'm not living, caregiving for supporting someone living with dementia, but I just want to see what she's doing. And so I got on, and at the time, my youngest was 16. So he was experiencing his own type of, hormonal brain change. And she gives you, kind of homework, how to care for yourself and how to deal with people. And I'm telling you, I did all of the things that we were learning how to do to support yourself and the person that you're loving. And it was amazing how many of the things, you're just 100% right that it is not just, for people living with dementia, the way, just to listen, be, slow to speak, kind, you don't have to prove somebody wrong. There's a woman that we work with, who's amazing. I don't know if you're familiar with comedy sports here in Richmond, but kind of like an improv sports things. And she was part of doing that. And she started doing something, and I can't remember which exactly she calls it, but yes. And so kind of like whatever you say, I'm going to say yes. And blah, 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 blah. But, instead of being like, oh no, it's not, you tell me something and my immediate reaction is, no, it's not, but instead it's yes. And then we're going to, kind of do this. So as you can imagine, that worked a lot better with a 16-year-old boy than just everybody would love to be treated like that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you are right. So you can practice it on anybody. You don't have to
that's true.
So you're speaking to somebody living with dementia to enter someone's reality and think, where is this person today? How are they feeling? Yeah. What has their day been like? And how can I enter and support them?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you never know what kind of problems somebody else is having, and people might be on edge. It's like, well, you just don't know what people are going through. And I think it's a way of practicing empathy and relating to people in a way that's more thoughtful. I think our world would just be a better place. So we're just kind of getting at the end here. I want to wrap up. I want to just, I guess, recap with for somebody who's looking to reach out and get the support that you offer. Just maybe break down, how they can get started, the process, maybe at a high level overview.
Yes. And I do want to be really clear about one thing that I wasn't clear about too. So if somebody wants to reach out to us, we would love for anybody and everybody to do that. People always say, what should we wait for? Don't wait, just call us. Our intake specialist is absolutely incredible. Just your conversation with her will be a gift. And we'd love to start that relationship with anybody, at all. Everybody's aging. And so, she'll take all that information. And then if you want to speak with an advisor, you can do that, whatever you're wanting to do. And if the situation is involving dementia and we want to bring in one of our dementia consultants, we'll do that. And our company will cover the cost of their first assessment, like their first time with you. It's a phone conversation. If they come to your home and meet with your loved one, whatever that is, that kind of whole first thing, they can make a plan for the future, whatever, we're going to cover the cost. If after that you decide, ooh, that was really helpful, I'd love to have them come in once a month or come in once a week or whatever it is, then you as a client would pay them directly for their time to come and, to meet with them or whatever it is. And they don't take insurance. All three of them are at different price points. We do that on purpose so that it's, not as expensive. And if somebody really needs that care and they can't afford that, then we have a scholarship process that they can take part in. But outside of those three, everything else that the whole rest of the team does is all free. That's the only piece that there isn't a cost to if somebody decided to do that.
Gotcha.
But that first meeting, part of the reason we do that first meeting for free is because once people meet, they're like, oh, okay, yes, this would be money well spent for us to have the relationship with that person.
Yeah, Yeah, that's
Yep.
great. It gives people sometimes like the hardest step is the first one,
Yes.
and it
Yeah.
gives them the clarity to know, okay,
Right.
now I understand how this is going to work. And
Right. And it's
um,
so helpful. And if
yeah,
they never do anything else with them again, it's still really helpful. And they, again,
yeah,
they can still use the whole rest of our team. And they could reach back out to them in a year if they wanted. There's no commitment, no contract, anything like that. So we just love to get to know people, if we can, before any kind of crisis. So then when they reach out, we're like, yeah, we already know you. We've already got you in our system. We've already built the relationship. You already know us and trust us, and we already know you. And we're able to jump in. If you're in the hospital, we can call your case manager and be a part of what's going to happen because we already know you.
very cool. Well, this is great. I appreciate the conversation. I just the
Absolutely.
depth and how I mean I really just could feel the heart that goes into
Yeah.
this, and I appreciate the work that you're doing to
Thank you.
support the community the way that you do, and
Yeah.
your consultants and just the whole team that you bring together to support these situations for folks. Um, I will, so just so everybody's listening, this is going to be published. You'll have it on YouTube. I'm also going to publish it to the Property Guide of Virginia website. So under our articles section, and we'll actually have like a kind of like an article breakdown that I'll repurpose off this. So if people prefer to read, they can read and skim and get the information they need. And of course, if they're wanting to learn more about Dowda Senior Consulting, we'll have the website and contact information for you linked up as well in those notes. So, with that said, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Jen, thank you so much. I
Thank you,
really
Jim.
appreciate your time.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah. And